Hello and welcome back to the show that we don't really know what it's called, whether it's Got on Board or the book review of Got on Board, or yeah, you guys are being absolutely no help whatsoever, which is to be expected since you're internet people, and internet people come into two groups: useless people, people who can't count, people who overuse jokes, and people like me. So I was asked today by one of my viewers, yeah, people actually watch this crap. I was asked today, why don't you ever review, you always say you like the book. Why don't you ever review a book you hate? Well, the easiest answer would be, it's my library. Why would I keep a book I don't like around in my library? But I'm not, I'm not that shallow of a person that I can only feel one feeling towards a book. In fact, there's one book that I can use as an example that I both love and hate very much for very different reasons, and for somewhat similar reasons, and that is Gregory Maguire's Wicked. Wow, the lighting is really terrible. I really should do something about that, but I really don't want to. Now, some of you may know the play, and I'll talk about the play in a minute, and I'll talk about the book. The book and the play are two completely different stories. I mean, the characters almost, I would say, apart from Alphaba and Glinda, all the minor characters got rewritten for the Broadway play. It was also sweetened. Let's just say that this is not a happy book, but it's a good book. Now, here's what I love about it. It's well written. It's obvious that this guy read the original, Books of Oz. Read, he knows what he's talking about, and this is good writing, a good storyline. You've got the political aspect, you've got the coming of age, you've got the ostracization by society. It's just an excellent book. Here's my problem with it. It's fan fiction. I hate fan fiction. Now, for those of you who don't know what fan fiction is when somebody other than the original writer decides that he or she is going to take up the yoke of writing continuation. And fan fiction can be either very good or very bad. Now, since A Wizard of Oz and its sequels was written over 70 years ago, it has become public domain. Copyright law over books is 70 years. That's your fact for today. In most countries, I believe. I think I actually think it's in general, but so legally he's completely in his right to use these characters however he wants. I don't like fan fiction, especially not when the fiction in question contradicts the set storyline. Now, what I mean is, what a lot of you may not know is, after Wizard of Oz, there were actually 10 other books written, and there's the whole Oz, universe. There's a lot more than what everyone knows about. Most people, either remember the movie or now have been introduced to it through the musical. I think it's a great musical. I never saw it on Broadway. I got to see a semi-professional performance where my sister was Elphaba, and I can no longer hear the song "No Good Deed Goes Unpunished," not because she didn't sing beautifully, but because she sang it so damn often. I just cannot listen to that song. It's nothing personal, Sheps. I can't. You ruined it for me. So I'll use the Tin Man as an example, and spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the play or read the book, Bach, who is this Munchkinlander who, in the book, becomes the Tin Man. The Tin Man already had an origin story in the original Oz series. So what this does is just contradicts it, which is one of my problems with fan fiction. It's not the original author, so it's not canonical. What do I mean by canonical? It's not part of the canon. It's not officially licensed, by the author, kind of like you could say, the Star Wars films are. Look, let's admit it. Sometimes somebody puts something into the canon. I mean, if you read the Oz books, you would know they're weird. And this is coming from a guy who reviews stuff on the internet. They're weird, really weird, like Lewis Carroll, Alice in Wonderland, weird. Like, holy heck, what was the guy smoking? Weird. I cannot reiterate. I mean, just the level of weirdness goes on, and really, it's astonishing that this guy was not. I mean, I haven't read his biography, but I'm astonished that he isn't known for being hospitalized in an asylum. Kind of. I mean, just weird, weird. Okay, so no, so what I was saying about Bach, pardon me, B-O-Q, is the Tin Man has his original storyline of how he became the Tin Man, and then this book comes along and creates its own story. I hate it when that happens. I hate it when all of a sudden there's this conflict. How was the Tin Man created? What's the real story? Well, the real story is the one Frank L. Baum wrote. Unfortunately, this is the much more popular book, and so everyone is like, oh yeah, the Tin Man is this, Munchkinlander who, was abused, whatever you want to, Personally, I approve of what he did. I love that, taking a villain and making it all of a sudden, that's what Wicked really is. It's taking, the classic bad guy from, I think one of the basic childhood movies. I think we've all seen A Wizard of Oz. If you haven't, what the hell is wrong with you? I mean, it was the first color movie. Just, I mean, it's so ingrained. I don't own a television, but I've heard it plays on television over and over again. Probably because the rights to it are done and they don't have to pay a royalty fee. But that's besides the point. I actually think it's a good movie too. I mean, for the times and for I think it's a great movie. Considering the trash they put out nowadays, I mean, it's phenomenal. Oh, this episode's getting long. Okay, so basically, well, this is what happens when you've got a book with a dichotomy of love-hate. I've rambled on. Basically, I love it and I hate it. I love it for what it is. It's an excellent book. It's excellent. It's written from the point of view of, not everything is black and white. Evil is not as we see it, bad, good. The Wicked Witch was not a wicked person. The wizard was not a good person, which are, it's arguable in the original series, the wizard's, kind of con man nature was necessarily, pointed to him being villainous or not. But yeah, so great book, not canonical, and this is really what it comes down to. Is it bugs me because it contradicts the other books, and me being the nerd I am, don't like that. Okay, the differences between the book and the Broadway play. Broadway play is a much sweeter, much more audience-friendly version. This book has got a lot of smut, a lot of murder, and it's good. I'm perfectly fine. I mean, I'm not a fan of smut, but if it's done in good taste, as it rarely is, it can serve the story. And I'm a fan of smut. That's I'm a fan. I am okay with smut so long as it continues the story. It creates some sort of needful or necessary process. I'm not a fan of it just for the sake of okay, we need a scene to attract more men, men aged 18 to 24 to our audience. It's a lot more, it's a lot more gritty, a lot more violent, just a darker feel. For those of you who know the play, Alphabet's got this whole defying gravity, being a rebel and She doesn't really, she fakes her own death and she runs away with Fierro, whose character is completely rewritten in the play. I mean, in the play, he's some sort of, princeling or they really, his character is unrecognizable from what it was in the book. There are certain, minor parts that stay the same, but generally it's just completely rewritten, and he becomes the Scarecrow at the end, and they run off together, or at least that's in the adaptation I saw. The book, not nearly so happy. I happen to like that. I happen to like realistic endings. I happen to like, the kind of endings with either bittersweet or I like resolution. I just don't like it when everything's, neatly wrapped in a bow and handed to you, and you're like, wow, that was really, really unrealistic and kind of annoying. I'm not a sadist. I don't enjoy the character suffering more than necessary. I do like to see character development, though. I do like to see the process of which characters go through, which you saw a lot in the book. You saw it some in the play, but I feel like the play kind of gave it up too easily. Gave you the happy ending you wanted, and not. I'm very much. I like happy endings as much as the next guy. I'm just a person who believes that a happy ending has to kind of come with a cost. Unfortunately, life, and fiction very often is meant to reflect life. Life is the kind of thing that you work hard, you get the reward. It's not just freebies all around. Some people have life easy, some of us have it hard. So to have this kind of and what can you do with a 2-hour Broadway play? What they did was phenomenal. Music, the story, but again, this is where it comes down to why I love and hate it. It's a great story, great characters, great everything. Everything works. It's kind of like if the Iron Man movies had a decent writer. If you take the Iron movies as generic action movies, and you don't pay attention to the plot, they're great action movies. The minute you pay attention to the plot, though, and this I think is to draw a parable is Wicked's failing, is that it's not, well, in my personal opinion, it's not canonical. But I would say read it, and if you hate fanfic, don't. This is fanfic at its best. This episode has gone on longer than any of my other episodes. Wiki Finger. I don't know how many of you will recognize that. So that's my review of a book I love and hate. I don't know if I can actually find a book I hate. I think, the closest I get to hating a book is Twilight, and even that I can find something that some sort of redeeming factor to it. The redeeming factor is that it got kids to read. It's trash, but at least it got kids to pick up a book and read. And that that's something. I'm generally I don't come down hating on books. I love the medium of novels. I love the medium of written word. I've got a Kindle, but I just love books. You probably can't see it, but I've got probably close to 2,000 or 3,000 of them, all around here. And a set of Mad Libs for some reason. Don't know where that came from. Oh, actually, I do know where that came from. Well, I've rambled on long enough. This has been the longest episode of the show. We still haven't decided what its name is, since none of you are being in any way helpful with the naming of the show. I'm going to ask again. Comment section below, on YouTube at least, or on Facebook if that's where you see this. Leave your ideas for what the show should be called. You can leave your idea about what book I should review next, what you'd like to see reviewed, what you'd like, longer reviews, shorter reviews, more boo, and what the show should be called. So far I'm just basically going with God on Board or book review or all that. So this has been my Wicked review.